Hi, welcome to my video series about emotional intelligence. I'm Linda J. Ferguson. I do job and life coaching for people who want to have both personal and professional mastery. In this video, I'm going to share with you the first element of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness. How can we be truly aware of our emotions? And how do we know that those emotions are truly coming from us as opposed to our judgments about somebody else? We often think about our emotions that get triggered by other people's behavior. And for some of us, we may immediately go into judgment about what somebody else is or isn't doing. Emotional intelligence, the first step, is being aware of those emotions that reside within us, that come to the surface when certain things happen. The first key idea here then is that our emotions are ours. They're nobody else's. We might think, oh, you made me so angry. It doesn't work that way. You might have behaved in a way that triggered a certain emotional response for me, but nobody can make you feel a certain way. Believe me, if I had the power to make other people feel a certain way, I would be very rich, very successful, and very happy. Because I'd have my little magic wand going around, oh, you're joyful, oh, you're peaceful, oh, you're kind, you're feeling joyful, good about life. I don't have that power, and neither do you. So the first key insight that I want you to take away from this video is that nobody has the power to make you feel a certain way. Your emotions come from you. They may come from those emotional triggers that you have, and we'll talk about that later. Your emotions are yours. Nobody can make you feel a certain way. Now, the beauty of that is that because our emotions come from us, we can be aware of it, and we can control it and regulate it, which is what we're going to talk about in the second video, self-regulation. As we begin to look at our emotional intelligence and self-awareness, the next piece that's really important to understand is, what's your emotional literacy? How many different emotions can you name and identify? I teach this seminar in corporations all the time, and I'm amazed. I can get a group of 30 people, and there won't be one person who can name more than 20 different emotions. So here's your exercise. I want you to pause this video in just a second, take out a piece of paper and pencil, and I want you to, for 60 seconds, write down, just list down real quickly as many different emotions and feelings that you can name and identify. Ready? Go. Welcome back. All right, let's see how you did. Did you name more than 15 different emotions? Well, if you're like a lot of people, you may have only gotten 10 or 12. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm glad to share with you my list of emotions of about 60 or 80 different nuances of emotions that you can have to help build your emotional literacy. Just go ahead and email me, request that information, email it to this address here, info@lindajferguson, and I'll be glad to share with you my list of all the different emotions that may come up for you in the course of a day or a week. And what I want you to do over the next week then is to pay attention to what are those different emotions that arise in different circumstances. We generally think of emotions falling into 5 different categories: mad, sad, glad, scared, or shame, or regret actually is an emotion that I would prefer to think of it. So mad, sad, glad, scared, and regret. We might think of the broad categories of emotions. And of course there's nuances within each one. That's what that list will be able to help you see. So as you're building your emotional literacy, here's an exercise that I want you to do over the next week. I want you to practice using I statements. You might have heard that in communication courses or conflict resolution courses. I statements are great. They're really powerful tools. They really help you name and claim what your emotions are. Let me give you an example. Maybe your roommate, your partner, your spouse always leaves the kitchen messy and it really bugs you, right? So you could go into the blaming, the shaming, you're so messy, blah, 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 making all sorts of judgment about what the other person's doing. And, you know, that might get you the kitchen clean, maybe at least in the short run. Probably builds up a little bit of resentment. Nobody likes feeling blamed and shamed. A better strategy is, I feel frustrated when I come into the kitchen and I see a bunch of breadcrumbs and dishes being left in the sink or food not being put away. Okay, I feel that way. I'm stating what the behaviors are. I'm simply being in that place of observation of here's what I'm finding and here's how I feel about it. I feel frustrated, angry. I feel annoyed when X, Y, and Z happens. right? You're owning your feelings and you're claiming them. They're yours. You're not blaming anybody else. What we usually get into are you statements. You're so lazy. You're so disrespectful. You're not considerate, right? Those are you statements, and those will almost always get us into trouble. Practice focusing on I statements. Now here's a little nuance. This is going to be a key for this video. As you're thinking about what your I statements are, make sure that you're saying what your feelings are, not what your judgments are about somebody else. That's a biggie. As we use I statements, we say, I feel angry, sad, frustrated, annoyed, or joyful, happy, excited. Those are the emotions that come from us. Rather than, here's a typical one we might say instead, I feel you're an idiot. No, that's not an I statement. That's not claiming what you're feeling. That's basically saying, I think you're an idiot. Right? If you can substitute the word think in an I statement, you've made a judgment. So instead of saying, I feel you don't respect me, that's a judgment about what somebody else is or isn't doing. Now you might say, and this is a subtle one, I feel disrespected. Except disrespected also has that element about what somebody else is doing. It's not really an emotion that we have. Now we can say, I feel anxious or uncomfortable when you don't deliver that report when you say you're going to. That's an emotion, and that's an emotion tied to certain behaviors. But it's not a judgment or conclusion about what somebody else is, whether they do or don't respect us. So pay attention to those judgments and those feelings. That's going to be huge in helping you develop your emotional intelligence. As you go through this next week then, practice identifying when you're feeling certain feelings, practice naming and claiming what those feelings are, and practice using I statements. I feel whatever's the emotion when these circumstances arise. That's a great first step in helping you build your emotional intelligence. May you walk with beauty, balance, and harmony as you move through your week. Blessed be.